The story that I'm about to share is still an ongoing haunting, so if you're going to listen to this, I highly recommend you put on your AirPods because you do not want this playing out in your open space. The person who submitted this would like to be anonymous, so for the sake of the story, let's call her Mary. One night, Mary and two of her friends were walking around her college campus. They were going through a really hard time emotionally and decided that going on a night walk would kind of clear their heads. At about 11 p.m., they're walking around when they come across this random homeless man. Now, this homeless man they have come across in the past, and he was always pretty harmless, so anytime they would see him, they usually just kind of kept to themselves. The man usually did the same. Now, on this night, as they were getting closer to where the man was standing, they heard him having a full-on conversation with someone that wasn't there. Like, the man was just speaking to himself. The girls decided to just ignore it and keep on walking. As the girls continued to make their way around campus, they kind of made a loop around and started heading back towards their dorm room. They came across the homeless man again, but this time they could hear another voice speaking back to the man. Now, this voice did not sound human, but it didn't sound not human. It was a very distorted voice. Something possessed Mary to look, and the minute she looked, she realized that she had made a huge mistake, because what she saw speaking to the man was this bird-like dark figure that was kind of half smoke, half like visible, standing there, almost looking distorted, almost as if this figure was like blinking in and out of existence. This freaked Mary out so much that she looked at her friends and told them not to look. The minute she opened her mouth to tell her friends not to look, she felt like this heaviness in her chest. It was almost as if something like kind of ran into it. The girls decided to kind of just hurry along and head back to their building. Mary lived on a different floor than her friends, so she ended up having to kind of make the walk on her own. On the way there, she couldn't shake off the feeling that she was being watched. Once she made it into her dorm, she decided to just kind of forget about it. She laid in bed trying to doze off to sleep and decided to scroll on TikTok until she finally did. But regardless, she could not shake the feeling that there was something around. Just as she was getting ready to drift off to sleep, it was almost as if some sort of force jerked her away and like pulled her body forward. The minute she sat up, she looked around her room and her room was completely pitch black. But I'm talking like the darkest that you can possibly imagine. That's how her room was. She looked around, and she has always been very sensitive to the paranormal and kind of knows how to protect herself. So she decided that whatever it was, she did not want to mess with. So she went ahead and grabbed some salt and made a barrier or saw around her windows and prayed to her guides to protect her. She decided to lay back down and try to calm down, but regardless, she was wide awake until like 4 a.m. Now, the next day when she woke up and spoke to her friends, she found out that one of her friends had actually fallen ill. And her other friend, who had also been with her, says that ever since they had that experience, she has been feeling weird. The very next day, being that Saturday, the girls decided to go out again and didn't get back to the dorms until like 4 a.m. As they're walking back to their dorms, they start to hear what sounds like whistling and like whispers coming from a bunch of different directions. The girls decided to just ignore it and continue to walk to their building. It wasn't until later on that Mary's friend told her that while they were in the Uber, like in the back seat, her friend heard when something went psst to her ear, which is impossible being that they were in the back seat, so there was no way that anybody could have been behind her. Ever since Mary saw that bird-like dark figure, it continues to play in her mind. It's almost as if it wants her to see it, it wants her to acknowledge it, and she continues to try to fight back the urge. I'm literally getting chills as I'm telling the story. At this point, she's not sure how to even confront it because she's not sure what she's even dealing with. I'll be making a part 2 as to what I would do if I was in her situation, but regardless, I still would love to hear from you guys as to what you recommend, because literally any opinions, any ideas would help at this point.